Why am I always on mute? Hello and welcome to the Athletics World Cup Radar. We are bringing you a live show every day of the World Cup, and I don't even know what day we're on now. It's been quite the tournament. We've got plenty of goals now, which is great. I think we are going to be joined by Adam Leventhal, who's been bringing you the show live from Qatar every day at some point. Perhaps some technical difficulties there, so we're just waiting for that to get sorted out. Producer is telling me we are going live to our good friend, who I like to nickname the Data King. It's Mark Carey. Hello, Mark.
Morning, Kiva. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. So what's been on your radar this World Cup? What's impressed you? And come on, give us the numbers. We want them.
This is the thing, really, with such a small sample size to go from, which is my buzzwords all the time. It's really hard to actually analyze anything kind of in the numbers. You know, typically throughout a season, it's getting trends, it's getting patterns, which is easier to do from a tactical perspective in the World Cup, but not as easy to do from a data perspective, because you are just, I mean, every team has just played twice. We're going into the third game. Like, to really get any statistical trends, that's super difficult. So I've been reading a lot of the tactical stuff, some amazing stuff on site from Liam Tharm, Michael Cox, Ahmed Walid, and I'm trying to almost hone my skills from a tactical perspective a little bit more. So with the radar, which obviously has been key to this show, and obviously the massive profiling we've done on site, that feels like my hard work has kind of been done there, and less so kind of in tournament, because it's so hard to pick up patterns with data.
Yeah, I mean, you say the hard work. You were basically hidden away for a few months, wasn't you, working on the radar? For people just joining us, can you tell people what the radar is? Because you are basically its co-founder, aren't you?
Yeah, well, we did it last year for the Euros. We did 60 players. We profiled 60 players, and it was kind of a combination of those who you should be maybe looking out for, those who could be getting a move to maybe a bigger club in the future. But we also had the non-negotiables, the headline acts as well. And because it was a bigger tournament in the World Cup, we went for more players. So we profiled 100 players, and we sort of split it into three parts. So it was profiling the player, a little bit about them, and sort of what makes them special as well. And we worked in combination with some of the lead writers, a bit about their profile, and then we used a bespoke data visualization to show exactly what makes them special. And then, of course, we had pizza charts, key to everything we do with the data, using data from Smarter Scout. And then we had a bit of a transfer or a future section, just to see whether if there was anyone who could be on the move in the future, where maybe they could go and what their contract situation is. So we covered at least one player from every country, and it was a big old project, but it seems to be getting good reception, and it's nice to see that it's being used every day in your show. Yeah,
no, it's just been amazing. I mean, it's teaching me things, and if you haven't read the radar already, be sure to check it out, because what I love about it, it's interactive, so you can just click on whatever team Argentina are playing, Brazil are playing, and it'll tell you a player that maybe you've not heard of before. And that's the great thing about it. As you mentioned, it tells you about the future, and what every fan wants to know: is there any chance of this up-and-coming player coming to a club near you? Hopefully your club is usually what you want. I think we might have Adam Leventhal now. We have Mr. Leventhal in Qatar. I think we do.
Hello, Kiva. Hello, Mark. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, it is good to see you both. Kiva will probably be back with you a little bit later on, and Mark will definitely be talking to you about England's tactical situation against Wales. So I look forward to that, and thank you very much for kicking off the show. All going to plan here, as per usual, at the beginning of the World Cup Radar. It is Adam Leventhal here in Doha, in Qatar, here at this FIFA World Cup. And we're at the Souk Waqif, which is the hub, really, the hubbub here at... it is. We're going back in again. The hubbub of this World Cup, where all the fans congregate. You'll see a variety of fans behind me already. I think over my right shoulder we have some Mexican fans. We have some Brazilian fans just here. There's some Argentine fans there. Literally, this is what the World Cup in Qatar, essentially in one city with 8 venues circling it, is all about. You basically get all the fans congregating all in one area, and this is the area that it happens at the Souk Waqif, which is basically a long section of interconnected streets with bazaars and stalls and markets. There is so much going on, and it is a fascinating place to be here at the Souk Waqif. Just to let you know what's going to be happening on the show today, we are going to be speaking to David Ornstein very, very shortly indeed. If I was able to explain exactly where David is at the moment, then it would explain that we're going to have to do a little bit of manoeuvring around in a moment's time. Jack Pitbrook is also going to be with us, talking about England against Wales. David is obviously going to be touching upon that as well. We're going to be focusing on the USA against Iran too, which is basically the game which will ultimately, you would have thought, if all goes to plan for England, will be the shootout between two sides trying to join England in the knockout stages of the World Cup. We'll also be hearing from Sam Stayskow on the USA-Iran meeting, and also the incredible scenes that we saw yesterday at the news conference for both the USA and Iran, the Matchday -1 news conferences, which turned into ultimately a point-scoring battle, political battle, with some huge topics being discussed by people that ultimately were not qualified to be talking about them. But we'll explain all a little bit later on. We'll also be joined by Matt Slater as well, who yesterday had one hell of an adventure. He went to all 4 games that were on yesterday. So let's just focus for a moment on what's going on around me here. I've described the fact that there are so many different fans, so many different nationalities. In amongst all of these fans, there are... a bird just landed on David Ornstein's head. I just have to mention that. I don't think it actually... Did anything come out, David?
Caught it live on camera. No, but it would have been good luck for England if it had. So
It would have been.
Let me hold this for you, Adam.
Right. So David Ornstein is with me. Just to let you know, I was going to say, before David almost got pooed on by a bird, that in amongst all of these fans, there are England fans as well. And I caught up with 3 very striking England fans a little bit earlier on today.
Come on, England! It's coming home! It's coming home! It's coming! Football's coming home! It's coming home! It's coming home! We hope it's coming home!
That is the line you didn't expect to hear live on the Athletic World Cup radar. Has David Ornstein got in his hair? Let's have a look. No. Turn the other way. Let's have a look. No, no. And round the other side, no is the answer, which is great news, isn't it? Well, this has turned into an interesting show already, hasn't it? Right, David, great to see you. We are here in the real sort of epicenter of fandom of this World Cup. It's great to be in this situation, isn't it?
Well, I think it's the atmospheric heart of the World Cup, Souk Waqif, and every day, morning, noon, and night, the atmosphere is just bubbling. You'll be able to hear in the background now some singing of fans from whether it be Iran or England, Brazil. Often this area is populated by Argentine fans. They love it. They're chanting about Messi and Maradona. Saudi Arabian fans have been some of the most vocal around here. Tunisians. It's a real melting pot of cultures, of nationalities. And you see all the different shirts. It's become sort of synonymous with this tournament. And in the night time, it really starts to lift. And ahead of England's game tonight against Wales, this will be a hub of life and song and music and dance and food and drink and shisha and all sorts. the stadium for the England match isn't a huge distance away from here. So I'm already noticing quite a lot of England fans dining and hanging out. It feels like this will be the biggest turnout of England fans who've maybe travelled over, but the Wales fans as well. So it's a real British occasion in the desert.
It is indeed. Obviously, we've got the first lot of games. It is the start of the final round of group games this evening. So we have those kicking off local time at 6 o'clock. England then kick off at 10 o'clock this evening. Let's focus on England. Let's focus on any team news that you can bring us.
Yeah, well, it's a similar situation to what we talked about on the Athletic Football podcast this morning, which everybody can have a listen to. There are reports overnight that Kyle Walker will be starting at right back, which is a quite significant moment in England's campaign. We don't know if that would be a back 3 or 4, but Walker has not played, I think, since the 2nd of October. He then underwent groin surgery. Many that I speak to around Manchester City expected him to miss the tournament quite comfortably. He's made a miraculous recovery, way ahead of schedule. He's been training with the team fully out here since pretty much we arrived. He's an experienced international and club player who Gareth Southgate clearly is banking on even without full fitness. And if he's in ahead of Kieran Trippier, who's not maybe by his own standards had the best start to the tournament, Trent Alexander-Arnold doesn't seem to be a favourite of Gareth Southgate's, and Reece James is injured, then that could be a really significant moment. There's a feeling that Jordan Henderson will come into central midfield. We don't know if that's at the expense of Jude Bellingham or in addition to him alongside Declan Rice. And then there is a...
What's your hunch on that?
I think it might be in addition to, actually. I'm not sure that Jude Bellingham's going to be dropped. I've spoken to a few people around the situation. We don't know for sure, so could be corrected here. But they think that the 3 will stay in there and maybe England will look to dominate central midfield. I don't know exactly how that would shake up. There is a report that it's instead of Bellingham. Yeah. So we'll report on the Athletic if we get any developments. And in terms of ahead of them, there are a lot of suggestions brewing that it could be Phil Foden and Marcus Rashford in support of the striker, who we presume to be Harry Kane. Yeah. I think if Kane's fit, I always expect him to start, even though there's been a lot of conversation about whether he might be rested for this game. England need to get the job done. Let's not forget, they're not through, even though they're in a commanding position. And so there are going to be changes, but as Jack Pitt-Brooke has written about and spoken about on The Athletic, it's not the sort of wholesale changes that you would have seen in the last group game at the Russia World Cup 4 years ago, or if this was a dead rubber.
Just to let you know about the other games that are coming up today. First of all, I did obviously mention that there are the games in Group A, which is the hosts group, Qatar, Ecuador against Senegal, and then the Netherlands are the team that will be ending Qatar's tournament. Just in general terms, you know, you've spoken about England from Wales' perspective. There is still a chance, and it very much depends on what happens in the other game, but they have to be a better proposition than we've seen in those first 2 games, don't we?
Yeah, I've been to the Wales training camp quite a bit, and the atmosphere is fantastic. Yeah. There's a great spirit among that squad that has been engendered throughout the last 2 major tournaments that they've appeared at on the European stage. The World Cup is now a huge moment in their history. First time since, is it 58? And they're enjoying themselves despite the fact that they've performed way below where they would expect. And I think Rob Page has struggled to hide his displeasure at the fact that they've got nowhere near where they think they can get. Gareth Bale hasn't excelled. Aaron Ramsey hasn't excelled. And they reached a point now where they need a minor miracle to go through. On a personal view, I think England are going to win, and that's going to knock out Wales. It could happen, but they're massively up against it. The Wales fans have been great. I think they're philosophical about the situation. And a draw, you know, depending on the other result, would obviously put England in jeopardy, but it won't do anything for Wales. Wales need to win, and I don't see them doing that.
Obviously, all our focus is on the games today, and we're really building up to it right here at the Souk Waqif. And there's just a feel of focus on these pivotal games this evening. But is there anything else currently on your radar that is piquing your interest that you can maybe give us a glimmer into?
Yeah, definitely. We're getting to the point in the tournament now where things are getting decided, and that creates loads of stories for us. So there's a really delicate situation brewing on Belgium. Loads of reports about unrest in the camp, and so we'll do a good job of trying to explain what's really happened behind the scenes, speaking to a lot of people involved in the situation or privy to it. They face a massive match against Croatia on Thursday night that's make or break for their chances. They could still go through and everything might be rosy in the garden, but Belgium's a story we're keen to tell. I'll be all over the England build-up in terms of team news and then the match itself and reaction. Following all of our normal lines of inquiries about various stories, not only at the World Cup, but there will be situations brewing outside as well, whether it be transfers, whether it be goings on back in the Premier League. And
Juventus as well.
The Juventus situation is one that is massive for European football. I'm sure James Horncastle will be writing about that, and I'll try and bring us some insight as well. But initially, when the news broke, and I spoke to a couple of people in Italy about what on earth's going on, they said exactly the same thing. It sent shockwaves through the Italian game. Many who are not of a Juventus persuasion seem to be quite pleased to see events catching up with them. But they're a major player in European football, in the proposed European Super League. And so that's the story that we need to pay close attention to as the Iran massif.
Let's see if we can bring you some shots of those fans. There they are, just making their way down the street. There they are. It is fascinating. It's very difficult to describe, because usually at international tournaments you will have two sets of fans in one place at one time, maybe three. But to effectively have 32 teams all in the same place, all at the same time, and all walking around, all sporting their shirts, it is a fascinating experience. Let's bring in Jack Pitt-Brooke if we can. David, thank you very much indeed. David Ornstein is now taken over camera duties. It's how we roll here on The Athletic. It's how we roll. Jack, how are your arms? You've been holding the camera.
Yeah, I'm all right.
Good.
Nice to have a bit of a rest. But...
yeah. Now, look, first and foremost, you might be able to paint the picture better than I have, but when you are here and you see what this is all like, what's your take on it? Are you a fan of this happening, this complete cascade of colours around us?
Yeah, I think you have to be, really. I mean, so much of the experience in Qatar has been, hasn't really felt like a World Cup. For all sorts of reasons, you know, this is in so many ways a unique World Cup, and yet right here where we are at the moment, it does really radiate a sense of World Cupness.
Yes,
you know, where else are you going to see Iran fans, Wales fans, Brazil fans, Mexico fans, Senegal fans, and I mean, I've even seen Colombia fans. They're not even here at the World Cup. So it's good. This is kind of what international tournaments are meant to be about. They're meant to be about bringing people together in this kind of way. So yeah, and it's definitely good.
Right, let's focus on England, and obviously there is a huge focus on the game this evening. In terms of the pressure that is on Wales, I suppose they're going to have to come out. They're going to have to play. They have to win.
Yeah, they do have to win. I think it's going to be tough for them. We know that England aren't unbeatable. They lost 4-0 to Hungary at home only in June. You know, the infamous Molineux fans booing Southgate game. So it can happen, but given everything we've seen from Wales in the first two games, I'd be really surprised if Wales can get a result tonight. Really, I mean, I might regret saying this, but I just don't think they've got the legs. I don't think they've got the skill. I don't think they've got the tactical ability to make a dent on England. England would have to utterly self-destruct to not win this evening.
Jack, Matt Slater has joined us rather unexpectedly. I
was invited.
You were invited. I wasn't necessarily going to speak to you now, but it's great to have you here.
I've run here.
You ran, did you?
Yeah, I have run here. Yeah. Well, because I was due on at 3:20, and I realised I was 10 minutes walk away, not 4 minutes jog away, which is what I did.
Fair play. Well, it's your it's the way you roll, isn't it? Especially after yesterday. Just tell people that aren't aware what you.
As the last possible time that will ever happen. So the last time I ever do it. I just, certainly I think the last time we'll get the opportunity to do 4 World Cup games in a single day, 4 different kickoff slots in a city, an Olympic-style World Cup. I think we're going to bigger World Cups. I don't think I'll do one somewhere like this again. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I also don't think it's possible to do 4 professional games of football in one day. I mean, without a helicopter and with actually staying around to watch 5 minutes of the action. I did it all on public transport as well, and my 2 legs. So yeah, that's what I did. But thankfully, I had a couple of media tickets, which I'm not for 1 minute suggesting. It was a small thing. Of course, it was a massive thing that enabled me to get in. But it was there was a serious journalistic point, right? And that was that Qatar turned a weakness of their bid into a virtue. Compact World Cup, no big trips for fans. They made it. They said right from the offset, fans will be able to go to more than 1 game a day. So obviously, I took it to the nth degree, and could I do all 4? You can definitely do 2. You could probably do 3 if you can get hold of the tickets. I found that quite hard. I did actually try to buy a ticket just to sort of explore that. It was very, very, very hard. But the key thing is some of the things that we were worried about coming into this World Cup, the metro, the flow of people in and out of grounds, just the logistics of it. Look, there are bottlenecks. There are times when it's a bit frustrating. It's not smooth. But then where is it smooth? It's doable. They have delivered on that. And for that, they deserve a pat on the back.
Matt, I'm going to bring you in a moment's time. I just wanted to ask Jack another question, if I may, about the England game this evening. We heard David Ornstein talking about the potential of playing Foden, the potential of bringing Henderson in, the potential of Henderson playing alongside Rice and Bellingham. What do you think Gareth Southgate, from what he said yesterday, is going to do this evening?
I think it'll be 3 or 4 changes. He won't make the 8 changes that he made for the. He won't make the 8 changes that he made for the Euros. Sorry, for the 3rd game in the World Cup last time, when England played Belgium in Kaliningrad. I do think he will try to freshen it up. He'll try to find maybe some. He'll try to integrate some players who haven't played much yet. I think he'll be very conscious of the fact that he's getting hammered at home. They're not using Foden enough. He'll try and see if he can get a little bit more out of Foden, because he knows that Foden's the kind of player who can really make a difference in the knockout rounds.
Jack, thank you very much for coming on board. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pop over here, and we're going to speak to Mark Carey and get his analysis of the situation. I'm going to sit down James Richardson style and speak to Mark if I can. Hello, Mark. I'm just taking my seat. This is live television, and this is how we. Hello, Mark. Here we are.
Hello.
I've got a massive thumb in my background, so to speak. And Ornstein, we've spoken to Jack Pitbrook about what they reckon is.
Hello, Mark Carey here, data analyst for The Athletic. Looking forward to the England-Wales game later on. I think it's obviously Wales who are in more of a need for a victory. I think England only need a point to win, but still an important game in the context of England and Wales. I think it's the first time that there's been 2 British sides playing each other within a World Cup. So it'll be interesting to simply see that one. In terms of what I think England will do, what I'd like them to do, first and foremost, is maybe change it to more of a 3-4-3 approach. Obviously, they've stuck with a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1 variation in the first couple of games. But I think that knowing that Wales will most likely start with a 3 at the back, a 5 at the back, the idea could be to really try and overload those wide areas, or at least match them by having maybe Kieran Trippier on the right-hand side, Luke Shaw on the left, and maybe bringing Phil Foden in. I know there's been a lot of controversy around whether he should play at all, trying to bring him into the side. I think that he could then be a little bit more of a presence in that right half space, maybe coming in for Bukayo Saka, maybe then still keep Sterling on the left-hand side, Harry Kane through the middle, and then have Kyle Walker come in. He's in need of minutes, obviously coming into the tournament and having not played for quite some time. Maybe an opportunity to give him some minutes and really lock down that defence. 3 at the back. There's been a lot of talk about Jordan Henderson coming in for Jude Bellingham, who played fantastically in the first game, a little bit quieter in the second game against the United States. So yeah, maybe locking it down in the middle with Declan Rice and Jordan Henderson, keeping a nice stretcher with 3 at the back and allowing those wing backs to get really high and almost have a bit of a front 5 with a lot of rotation. Phil Foden coming towards the ball, Sterling going in behind. And because Wales need the win, they're more likely to come out, especially in certain moments and as the game progresses. So England obviously got so many different options from the start. Also, then you think about who could come off the bench as well. Jack Grealish, if Saka weren't to start, he can come off the bench as well. Callum Wilson could also come in for Kane. There's been, again, a lot of talk about his, not necessarily his match fitness, but just how his early form in the first couple of games has gone. He looks quite tired at times, so maybe bringing Callum Wilson in, Rashford to stretch the play as well. So my initial thought is to maybe go for 3 at the back in order to have more of an attacking width in that wing back to at least match up with Wales.
So that was Mark speaking a little bit earlier on. We can go back live once again. Mark, from your point of view, I think just prior to us just dipping into the past for a moment and hearing from you, I was going to ask, is there anything that Wales can exploit that you see in this England side?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think as much as anything, I think because of the fact that they do have to kind of go for it, I think if they were to kind of play with a bit more pace for any side is going to be daunting. They've obviously got someone like Dan James, Brennan Johnson, who can stretch the play a lot more. I think after they had to kind of go for it a little bit more in the Iran game, James came on. I think they went more to a back 4 and they tried to stretch the game a little bit more with pace. You think about Kiefer Moore as well. He changed the game in the first game, getting the ball up to him and sort of making it stick a little bit, have runners off him. I think that would be more of a threat to England than maybe if it were to be kind of Bale and Dan James on their own. So I think if ever there were to be, if Wales were to sort of have to, they do have to go for it. If ever they were to try and threaten England as much as they can, I think it would be maybe to have more as a central presence and have just fast runners coming off him because, yeah, as I say, Wales have got to get results.
And just a general point finally from you, Mark, there is so much perception as the USA fans are in full voice just on my right hand side at the moment. There is so much criticism of Gareth Southgate, and let's not be we need to be honest about this. This has been building for the last few months, almost the last year really, that the negativity is becoming a little bit wearing. Are you feeling that it's not necessarily negativity and it's actually him being pragmatic in a tournament situation and you have sympathy for what he's done, or do you think that he could just ease off the handbrake a little bit?
I'd probably say, yeah, that element of pragmatism is exactly the sort of, the phrase that I had in my mind. I think that Southgate has, all of the English FA have looked into the research of what it is to win a major tournament. And in the past couple of major tournaments, they've gone to the latter stages. So I think what Southgate is doing is playing tournament football and realising that it takes 7 games to win a tournament, not 2. And you don't want to almost show your cards too early. You don't want to gas out too early. If you need the draw against the United States, then get the draw and move on. It was frustrating from the perception of a fan, where you thought, okay, there was an opportunity to go for it with the amount of attacking options that England have. However, as I mentioned, all you need to do at the stage of the group stage is qualify, and England look set to do that. And then you can start to think about maybe taking more risks when you're, if you were to be a goal down in the knockout stage, there's no option but to take risks then. But at this stage, the primary remit is to qualify. As someone just gives us a nice little wave there, the primary remit is to qualify, and it looks that England will do that. So I think that pragmatism is the order of the day, I think, for any major tournament football, and that's what Southgate's doing.
Mark, thank you very much for coming on. And just to explain that the guy that just walked behind us and waved, his friend is just sat next to us in the restaurant, and they're watching it live right now. So we're just sort of completing the circle here. We're being watched live, being live, everything's live, and everything's going a bit haywire, which is all good fun. Mark, thank you very much indeed, and we'll make sure that we get you back on very, very soon, perhaps afterwards, to analyse how the game actually unfolded. And Mark, at the beginning of the show, with Kiva O'Neill, was discussing the radar, which is a huge piece of work from The Athletic. 100 players analysed at the tournament and given details on their tactical acumen, but also the potential of moves in the future. There are some big guns in there, but there are some players that maybe are a little bit under your radar. And Kiva can lead the way on this now with our latest selection, which has a little bit of a nod to the USA against Iran game this evening.
Hello there. Welcome back to the Radar, the Athletics cheat sheet guide to 100 players at the 2022 World Cup that we think are going to have a fantastic tournament. The aim of the Radar is to make you the most informed person in your group chat, the cleverest person at the pub, and just so you can have a jolly good time while watching this tournament. Who is today's player, Kiva?
Today's player is Weston McKennie of the United States, also of Juventus. We're really excited to bring you some data on him and have a nice little chat.
Yes.
About what he does on a football pitch, because he's quite an interesting player.
Yeah. Before we begin, because we are talking about Weston McKennie, this thing right here is some humble pie. I said some very mean things about Weston McKennie a couple of years ago, and he's turned out to be quite a good player. So, sorry, United States men's national team players. So, what sort of player is Weston McKennie?
He is a central midfielder.
Yep.
And he is someone who, I mean, we can already throw up this first little bit of a data hit we've got for you about his how less involved he is in progressive passing.
Okay. So yes, this is a very strange chart that we don't normally use when we're talking about how good a football player is. But Weston McKennie is one of the least creative on-ball creators. Weston McKennie is not a great on-ball creator when he plays for Juventus and the United States men's national team. His strength isn't what he does with the ball, as you can see by his chart. When his team are in possession, the ball isn't very often fed to McKennie to make things happen. McKennie had a really interesting come up through the footballing pyramid. He was playing in a very dysfunctional Schalke side. You may remember the one that nearly set a record for the most defeats in the Bundesliga. Then he went over to Juventus in a loan deal, which was quite head-scratching at first, and then became a permanent deal, and he turned out to be quite a good player. His strength isn't what he does with the ball. His strength truly is what he does without it. He's a fantastic ball-winning central midfielder. Sometimes a 6, sometimes an 8. He can play it right back, and he can play it right wing, but his big thing is not what he does with the ball, but how he wins the ball back when you want to make a statement and you want to really press high up the field. And to prove this, we can go to our Smarter Scout data chart. Producer, Jonesy, you got a Smarter Scout for me? Here it is. Welcome to the Radar. If you're not familiar with the Smarter Scout charts, what they do is they take a action that a football player can do and gives you a score between 0 and 99, a bit like a FIFA score, and then they slap it on a fun little piece of chart. The bigger chart, the bigger the wedge on your chart, the better you are at that action, or the more times you do that action. And the best players, or essentially the players that make us all in the stats bunker go, ooh, have really nice, big, well-rounded chunks. So you can see from looking at Weston McKennie
This isn't too well-rounded, is it? That red, what is that saying?
The red one. What's really interesting with Weston McKennie is when he initially went to Juventus, his big strength was ball receptions and recovery. So that little signal there that was be around about, I'll call that 8 o'clock, is now really small. Since other midfielders arrive at Juventus, McKennie's not really the ball-winning midfielder you'd expect him to be in a defensive sense, but he's now pushing higher up the field, as you can see by that larger blue wedge at 2 o'clock, which is receptions in the opposition penalty area. McKennie's getting into the final third a lot more compared to what he did in previous seasons. The two things we really want to highlight here are his two large green wedges, which are for link-up play volume, which is how often is he doing short passes with other teammates, and ball retention ability. So that very much indicates the safe passes he does. McKennie doesn't use the ball often, but when he does get it, he keeps it for his team. And then he does win it back a lot. I'm talking a lot. I think we've got one more to illustrate how important his energy can be by illustrating the areas of the field he was in against England. Kiva.
On that right-hand side, just obviously he's a player who can, you described him well, that he just sort of makes a pass and waits to,
Yep.
offloads it straight away, and then is like runs around sort of where he can disrupt the play again, get that pass, feed it off, and then obviously make those late surging runs into the box. But against England, obviously he's playing a lot more on that right-hand side, but his touches come all over the pitch. He's, a player that does like to run about quite a bit.
He's got 4 lungs. He's a really pleasant boy as well. I don't know if you've seen the Amazon All or Nothing series on Juventus, but he had a couple of nice conversations with Chiellini. As Chiellini was talking to him about great pasta, and McKennie just talked to him about how much he likes ranch dressing, to which Chiellini just looked at him baffled, going, "Oh no, young man, I need to teach you what really nice food is." He also has a fun nickname in Juventus, doesn't he?
Yeah, there's a great line in the radar, which you can obviously read on The Athletic. And it says the last line of the profile on him said that Gianluigi Buffon used to call him Big Mac.
Big Mac, big Weston McKennie. Fun player, loads of energy, wins the ball high up the field, and it's a fantastic off-ball creator, an off-ball asset for your team. He's at Juventus at the moment, but he has been linked to more than one Premier League club, including West Ham.
Tottenham. Maybe we might see him.
Oh, really?
Might see him in a league near you.
That is a very Conte-esque central midfielder, I'll give you that. That's Weston McKennie. He's a really nice boy. He also likes Harry Potter. So once celebrated a goal for Juventus by doing a sort of abracadabra thing. I don't know if that's how Harry Potter works. I've never seen a film. But other than that, I do know Weston McKennie's a very good football player. And I'm really sorry that I said mean things about him a couple of years ago.
I'm sure he forgives you, Carl. Magic work, as always. Harry Potter reference. Wonderful. Right, let's focus a little bit more on the game that obviously Weston McKennie is going to be featuring in, and that is the USA against Iran. And Sam Stejskal, our US men's national team reporter, has this little dispatch about an incredible day of match day -1 press conferences yesterday, which had all sorts of things involved.
USA and Iran have a massive match later on Tuesday night in Group B. Second place Iran needs a win or potentially a draw, depending on the outcome of the Wales-England match, to advance to their first round of 16. In their history, while the US needs to win, no other outcome will suffice in order to get out of the group. It's been a massive, massive match, but the build-up to it is focused on basically everything but soccer. There was a press conference yesterday with Greg Berhalter and US captain Tyler Adams that was frankly a little intense. It was unlike anything I've ever experienced before in terms of the media availability in my years as a journalist. There were a ton of political questions. There were a ton of kind of feisty questions, particularly from Iranian journalists towards Berhalter and Adams. One addressed Berhalter by asking him why he hasn't asked the U.S. government to move the U.S. naval fleet out of the Persian Gulf. Another talked about inflation back in the United States and suggested that it was maybe a reason for a perceived lack of support of the men's national team at home. But probably the most remarkable moment of the press conference came when a reporter corrected Tyler Adams' initial pronunciation of Iran. He pronounced it Iran, which is a relatively common thing to do in the United States, and then asked him how he, as a black man, could be comfortable playing for a country that has a long history of racism and discrimination against black people. And Adams, who it bears mentioning, is only 23 years old and was just named captain of this team on kind of a semi-permanent basis only a week ago or so, gave a really great answer. He apologized for mispronouncing Iran, thanked the reporter for educating him, and kind of disarmed him, I think, in that way. And then didn't deflect, didn't get defensive, acknowledged the problems regarding racial relations that we have in the United States, acknowledged that, hey, a lot of those exist in other places around the world too, and that the important thing is progress. He sees that progress happening in the US. I thought it was a remarkable, kind of poignant and very mature moment from Adams, who didn't even skip a beat. He just launched right into the answer, didn't pause at all, rolled off the tongue, probably better than it's rolling off the tongue for me recapping in this video. So that was a remarkable moment, and we'll see what happens on the field tonight. The storyline will shift to the soccer, but there will be some drama as well in terms of the political narrative, in terms of what's going on with the Iranian fans and the protests that are happening back in their country and the crackdowns from the government. So a lot happening in tonight's match, not just on the field, but off of it too.
Sam, thank you very much indeed. Yeah, and there's plenty more writing on The Athletic regarding those off-the-field issues with Iran, especially the Iranian fans here. who are worried about what is going on at home, very conscious of their own movements. Look out for articles. There's a joint byline with Laura Williamson and Adam Crafton, and also another piece by Charlotte Harper as well, which I recommend you read, about some of the protests that some fans have intended to make here, and some of the crackdown from the Qatari officials trying to push back. So there is a lot to read on The Athletic at the moment. Just wanted to reflect very briefly, if we can, on the action that we saw yesterday. Some thrilling games, 14 goals, and it was action-packed all the way, with Cameroon drawing 3-3 with Serbia. I was at the South Korea against Ghana game. Obviously, Ghana were in control. Then South Korea came back to 2-2, and then Mohamed Kudus wrapped things up for Ghana. And we heard from him a little bit earlier on. A proud Ghanaian himself, Karlanka, has this for us.
Hello, team. As you can see, I've hidden off into one of the Athletics audio studios that have been soundproof, because such was the noise I was making in the main office that they went, I might have to calm down to give you this post-match debrief. Ghana 3, South Korea 2, and what was just a ridiculous fixture. Ghana go 2-0 up at halftime, and you thought things were plain sailing for Otto Addo's side. They lose 2 goals, thanks to some slack defending out wide and some fantastic crosses in from South Korea's defence. And then right at I won't call it a death, but one of the last stages, Mohamed Kudus managed to capitalise on another slip from Inaki Williams to get the 3rd goal. It's a remarkable result for Ghana. The 10 minutes of stoppage time at the end of the second half was one of the most stressful times I've ever had as a football fan. I checked my Fitbit at full time, and it said 110 beats per minute, and the peak was 121 beats per minute, which is basically what my cardio looks like when I am playing football. So that's how stressful it was. Ghana now, as I'm recording this, are on 3 points. They will probably need a favour from Portugal, who are about to play Uruguay as I'm talking to you right now. But everything's set up quite nicely for the big old grudge match on Friday between Ghana and Uruguay. I'm just going to pan down and show I'm in the Ghana kit as well. That's how passionate I am about this. And yeah, it's going to be a fun old game. A fun old ding-dong. Uruguay are going into the Portugal game with Edison Cavani up top rather than Luis Suarez, which is probably sensible, or possibly could just be alternating their older strikers, shall we say. So Suarez will be fit for Friday, which will add a little bit extra spice there. A remarkable result. Otto Addo's side, it's the youngest side at this World Cup. It's the side with the lowest FIFA ranking at this World Cup. They really scratch and claw to get to this tournament, and yet here they are with a fighting chance. One of the 30 out of 32 nations now that has a chance of still qualifying for the round of 16. Absolutely remarkable. Fantastic times.
Yeah, and it was a cracking game to be at, a brilliant atmosphere. I just wanted to finish by showing you the scenes here at the Souk Waqif, which is this huge collection of fans from all nations at this World Cup, which you can see all the way around. There we are, and there is a massive golden thumb as well. And fail to prepare, prepare to fail. I haven't actually worked out why there is a massive golden thumb, and I will do my research, and I promise to tell you next time. But we are obviously focused on the games this evening. We've got the first kickoffs in 2 hours, 15 minutes. And we have that shootout between Ecuador and Senegal to see who's going to go through with the Netherlands in Group A. You'd expect the Netherlands to win comfortably against the host Qatar, who are exiting the tournament. And then later on in Group B, it is England against Wales. If England win, they will top the group and they go through. Anything for Wales, if they can potentially beat England, then they have to rely on results elsewhere. And that other game is between Iran and the United States, which is a massive game on and off the field. I wanted to just end by showing you how many fans there are here. And there is barely any space at all for people to move. But that hasn't been the case in some of the stadiums so far in this tournament. There have been plenty of empty seats. However, there has been a little bit of a different narrative from FIFA about how many people have actually been in the stadiums. Different attendances on the eye to actually maybe what we've seen in reality. So this is a final explainer from Laura Williamson about the situation with the fans. But I wish you all the very, very best. Remember to follow all the action on The Athletic throughout the rest of the day and beyond, because we have so much coverage for you, live, audio, video, and of course on the website and the app as well. It's been another, well, adventurous World Cup radar. We've got through it, and we'll leave you with the thumb and that explainer for you from Laura Williamson.
Have you noticed some of the stadiums don't look completely full? Well, FIFA say attendance is at 94% so far. So what's going on? When we asked them what that actually meant, it's not tickets sold, because that doesn't account for people like me, journalists who can sit in the stadiums for free, or VIP ticket holders who don't pay for their seats either. It's tickets sold and everybody else in the stadium, according to FIFA, rather than the people physically going through the barriers to get in to watch the game. Well, for England's 6-2 victory against Iran, the attendance was 45,334. That was particularly remarkable because in FIFA's own documentation, the capacity of the Khalifa International Stadium was only 40,000. So where are all those extra people going? Then on Tuesday, FIFA updated those documents to say that the Khalifa International Stadium can take up to 45,857 people, which makes a bit more sense. They said that World Cup stadiums have to hold a minimum of 40,000 people, so they'd used that figure as a round figure before the tournament started. Then, after counting every individual seat and making allowances for things such as camera tribunes and where corporate ticket holders are going to sit, they updated the capacities. So that's where they got the extra 5,000 odd seats from. We're a week in now, and I've been to lots of games over the past 7 days. Does it feel 94% full? No, it definitely doesn't. If Brazil aren't playing, it feels maybe 60-70% full. The corporate seats are very, very quiet generally. Do people necessarily come back for the second half, particularly for matches that kick off at 10 p.m. local time? No, they don't. There's also difficulties getting out of some of the grounds, the big snake-like queues forming around the metro, so you can understand people wanting to take an early cut.